Hi, Ken here. Welcome back to Martial Art Madness and episode 3 of Encountering Bruce Lee. Now, this has been a hard one for me to make. If you've noticed, it's been a couple weeks since Encountering Bruce Lee episode 2. And here's the reasons why, because it's the one that will probably create some controversy, maybe, from my viewers. Now, I don't have a lot of viewers. I appreciate everyone who has viewed. So far, only it's been in the low hundreds. But in any case, uh, I do appreciate everybody who does view this video and all my videos. The reason why this one will be controversial because I'm going to say some things. They're true. I think there's some lessons learned, and they can be hard to swallow. I'm also going to say some things that are really great and praiseworthy. But the reason why I brought this last one up, Encountering Bruce Lee episode 3, is because of some of the harder truths that need to be spoken if we really want to encounter Bruce Lee. I remember when I first saw Enter the Dragon. My mom had married her second husband, a guy named Les. By the way, my dad, her first husband, is also named Les. They weren't married very long. He was a very nice guy. And he took us to see Enter the Dragon at the drive-in. I was begging. So he takes us to the West End Drive-In. I'll never forget it. It was the West End Drive-In. And it's playing with another martial arts movie called Five Fingers of Death. And this is a little bit important for me to go ahead and juxtapose some things about how come Bruce Lee was so important to me. And we go there to see it and Enter the Dragon is first because it's the main show. And immediately I'm captivated. He comes on the stage. He's fighting Samuel Hung, who will become popular in his own right just about a decade later. And I'm captivated. And here's the interesting thing about it. I still am every time I watch Enter the Dragon. I watch Enter the Dragon at least once a year, every August. And I sometimes watch it more than once a year. And I'm still captivated. Matter of fact, with all of Bruce Lee's movies, I have them on DVD, Blu-ray, and I also have them on Amazon. Just in case something happens, I want to have a Bruce Lee movie. I watch every Bruce Lee movie at least once a year. Only film of his four that opens up with him in a fight scene. I say the four because Game of Death is Bruce Lee's in it, but it's not really a Bruce Lee movie. More on that maybe in a different episode. But to this day, it's not his best fight scene. Matter of fact, I think one can make an argument out of his four movies. It's maybe his worst fight scene. But his charisma just shines through. It's awesome. The way he comes out there, just his movements. It's spectacular. And I still get excited every time that film opens. Every time I still get excited. And I remember watching that movie and I couldn't believe I'm at the drive-in seeing my hero. Because for about probably almost a year now, Bruce Lee was my hero. By the time I get to see that movie. And I'm just enthralled by it. Well, Enter the Dragon's over. And I want to bring up this little tidbit because it's just kind of funny. So I go to the playground, and the West End had this little playground in the back. And I go to the playground in the back during the intermission. And I'm there, and this other kid, and he's just talking to me right off the bat. I had a little bit of a speech impediment. Sometimes it probably comes through when I'm speaking here. And I usually didn't open up conversation first. But he opens up conversation with me, and he tells me his name is Kenny. And I'm like, oh, well, I'm Ken. Now, almost everybody called me Kenny in the family. Mom, my brother, my aunts, my uncles, cousins called me Kenny. I hated Kenny. I couldn't stand it. But everybody called me that. So I always introduced myself as Ken to people. And he says, wasn't that just the greatest movie ever? And I'm like, yeah, I was so excited by it. And interesting enough, my mom moved a lot. So since I was 5 years old, my mom moved until I would enter junior high at the age of 13. My mom would move 18 times during that time frame. It was not uncommon for me to have gone to the same in the same grade to have moved 4 times and went to 4 different schools. That happened quite often. And this is one of those examples. So I see Enter the Dragon, and I am going to a new school. I started in Airway Heights for my 5th grade, and then I go to Stevens Elementary School in Spokane, Washington. And I go into school. Mrs. Cole is the teacher, and she gets my name, and she can tell I got a speech impediment. She says, "Oh, we got to get that looked at." She probably meant well, but of course she says it where everybody can hear. And she says, "You'll sit right over there." And guess what? I'm sitting by Kenny, the kid I just met, probably 3, 4 months earlier at the Bruce Lee movie at the West End Drive-In. We didn't become best of friends, but we became friends. And it's just kind of a neat little tidbit where we got to know each other for those few months that I was at that school. Well, in any case, go back and I watch Five Fingers of Death. And what was even more apparent, because Five Fingers of Death will be the third martial arts movie I got to see. Now, I'm not counting the Trial of Billy Jack, because the Trial of Billy Jack, while I had martial arts in it, was not really what one would think of martial arts genre, at least not as a kid. And it was real apparent to me that Lo Lee, the actor in that one, is not as good as Bruce Lee, whether it's in charisma or in fighting skill. I can remember at this age of 11 how distinctly different they really are. I mean, it's amazing. And I remember watching the film in the backseat of that car going, it's stupid. He's not Bruce Lee. He's not as good as Bruce Lee. Why would they even have this guy doing martial arts? That's not how it's done. How it's done is by the way Bruce Lee did it. I could tell, even at that age, the crispness of technique was so different coming from Bruce Lee than from Lo Lee. And what I would find out later in life that, yeah, that's why he boomed in Chinese cinema and became an international star. He was special. He was different. He was phenomenal, matter of fact. Otherworldly, one could say. And he knows he was bringing him up to a new standard when he started in Hong Kong cinema. It's the reason why his earlier films broke records throughout Southeast Asia. They were explosive compared to those other fight scenes. And his martial arts was more true to life, but still in the realm of movie making, fantasy, genre, excitement. He was special. I would read the books intently, and I'd get almost every book I could. I remember when I bought Dao Jeet Kune Do and the 4 Bruce Lee's Fighting Method. I remember getting this one, Who Killed Bruce Lee, by the editors of Kung Fu Monthly. I used to buy Kung Fu Monthly like crazy. Of course, I had what I already mentioned, Bruce Lee, King of Kung Fu, and The Legend of Bruce Lee. There was also The Secret Art of Bruce Lee. There was Bruce Lee in Action. There was The Power of Bruce Lee. And then as I got older, they didn't stop. They're still making Bruce Lee books to this day. And I haven't bought one in a while, but I remember getting Bruce Lee, The Celebrated Life of the Golden Dragon. The Philosophies of Bruce Lee, The Warrior Within. Now, there are a lot of people out there who know Bruce Lee much better than I do. And they have YouTube channels, or they've been on podcasts, they've done interviews. And I'm not trying to compete with them, but I think the reason why I'm doing this series is because I wanted to honor Bruce Lee, but I wanted to be honest about Bruce Lee. And Enter the Dragon is the time period to get to the warts and all. See, Bruce Lee, while making Enter the Dragon, he was so driven that something started to happen with his personality. He was always known to have a temper. If you read enough or hear interviews from people who knew him, like I mentioned Danny Inosanto because he's one of the most prominent, Bruce Lee was known to have a temper. But what we find out, and as a teen, I kind of passed over these things when I read the books. I mean, I saw them, but I just passed it over. I didn't want those minor faults because I saw them as something being judgmental. I didn't want to do that. But what is quite interesting, as I got into my early and mid-20s, is I'm getting better in the martial arts and maturing in the martial arts. And I'm still fascinated with Bruce Lee. I'm rereading some of these books I've always had. And I'm discovering some things about him. That Bruce Lee, during the filming of Enter the Dragon, had a lot of anxiety. By some recounts, they couldn't find him for 2 weeks. Robert Klaus is having to film around Bruce Lee because they can't find him. They find where he's at, and he's just so riddled with anxiety, he couldn't show up. Now, once they got him on the set, most reports said he did fine. His anxiety kind of slipped away once he took that first step and got there. Bruce Lee also started having some paranoia. The paranoia will come on the set when it comes with Bob Wall. While doing takes on the fight scene with Bob Wall, there's a point where Bob Wall breaks these bottles and he lunges at Bruce Lee. And in one of the takes, he misses and he gets Bruce Lee's hand. Pretty severe cut. They had to stop filming, bandage him up, and wait to go back to that scene to film it when they could take the bandage off and he was more healed. Bruce Lee got paranoid and thought it was an actual attack on him. That Bob Wall was trying to hurt Bruce Lee, or he's mad at Bruce Lee. He's trying to destroy the picture. They will do the scene where Bruce Lee kicks him after that. And Bob Wall says, boy, he kicked me so hard, it hurt. Busted me a rib. Bob Wall downplays Bruce Lee's paranoia here. But Bob Wall does admit in some interviews, if you can find them, that there were rumors spreading out that, boy, Bruce Lee wanted to kill him. Bruce Lee was super mad. Bruce Lee thought he was trying to destroy his own career. He has paranoia. Something that we don't like to talk about, especially as marijuana is becoming more acceptable in society. And, I when I was a cop in the Air Force and when I was an investigator for DFPS in Texas, I've never used marijuana. I don't consider it the worst drug in the world or the best drug in the world. It's a drug. Not everybody who uses it can become stupid or crazy, but not everybody who uses it will be mellow either. It's a myth. And it's a drug for a reason. Now, whether it should be legal or not, I've always cited that it should be legal, just to let my bias out there. I've never used it. I'm not going to use it. I have no desire for it. I just don't think fighting that battle, whether it's legal or not, is a battle that we can win financially. I think that the war on drugs has showed us that. But it doesn't mean there's not a cost. I say all that just to give you my perspective. See, as a teen, I read the words he used cannabis and okay, I have friends who smoke marijuana in high school. They're fine. They laugh a lot. And I kind of glossed over some of the ill effects of it when it came to Bruce Lee. We always think people are mellow and they can use it when they got anxiety. It calms them. It doesn't do that for everybody. For some people, it can increase their anxiety. Marijuana is known to cause paranoia in a lot of people. He has increased paranoia. I've just given a couple little snippets of all the things written about Bruce Lee during this time period. So he's got tantrums, anxiety, and paranoia. And then it looks like he has an allergy to it, or at least maybe the abuse of it. Now, there's many accounts when Bruce Lee started taking marijuana. I would say if you wanted to add them all up, it tends to be when he was in California around the time he broke his back. And no, he didn't break it like in the Bruce Lee, Dragon, the Bruce Lee story, in a fight underground with Juan Jack Mack. No, he broke it lifting weights. That's when all the accounts typically try to corner it. Whether he had it beforehand or not, I don't know. But we do know that when he is in Hong Kong making movies, he's getting deeper into it, especially when he's filming Fist of Fury, the Chinese Connection. Robert Baker, who's in the movie Fist of Fury as one of the evil guys, he's the white man who's brought to fight Bruce Lee, and it's a terrific fight scene. Is also his student in the States. And Bruce Lee was known for this pretty good quality. He was pretty loyal. He loved his students and his friends, and he tried to find ways to help them out. And he got Baker into the movie role. And it's a great fight scene. The problem is Baker's also one of his drug dealers. We do know this for sure now. We have the letters of Bruce Lee sending them to Baker requesting certain types of drugs. Bruce Lee was using these drugs, and they're increasing probably his physical health problems, his anxiety problems, and his paranoia. So he's just now self-medicating even more. On May 10th, 1973, he is going to collapse and go into seizures. He'll be rushed to the hospital. Dr. Langford will be called by Raymond Chow, and he will examine him. And Bruce Lee is actually in a temporary coma, for lack of a better word. It didn't last very long, but when he gets to the hospital, he's in a coma. Bruce Lee admits, I used some cannabis early that day. To a lot of accounts, He used a lot of cannabis early that day. On May 10th, he was in the dubbing room on Golden Harvest Studios helping with the soundtrack. That's a clue that you're either abusing drugs, probably, or maybe these drugs aren't for you, because Bruce Lee will die a couple months later. Now, what will happen after this is he will be encouraged to go get a thorough checkup and neurological exam, and he'll go to UCLA Medical Center in Los Angeles. He'll fly there, he'll get a checkup. They say, hey, you're super fit, you're in great shape. Well, of course he was. You looked at him, you could see what he could do. And Bruce Lee, like all of us, we typically, most of us, unless we are, hypochondriacs, we typically try to give ourselves in the best light to a physician. That's why physicians got such a hard job. Minutes ago, and says, well, I'm fine. Yeah, I got this problem, but I'm fine otherwise. They don't go, well, why are you seeing me? They have to try to figure it out. But Bruce Lee probably was very much the same way. I'm fit. Look at me, what I can do. I'm okay. Well, he goes to the tests come back out, but Bob Wall says something really interesting. And I don't know if this can be found on YouTube. I remember seeing this interview way before YouTube. I want to say it was on Curse of the Dragon that came out in the early mid-90s. I may be wrong there. But Bob Wall says Bruce Lee came to see him, and he goes, Bruce, you look pale. You don't look good. And Bruce had told him, oh, no, I'm fit. I just went to UCLA. They say I'm super fit. Look at me. My muscles, I'm in great shape. I'm doing really well. But Bob Wall was concerned. It also shows that maybe at this point, Bruce wasn't taking any of those drugs. He was flying in America. He wanted to look fit. And he goes sees Bob Wall, the person he was really mad at just a couple months before. He's not as paranoid right now. But more than likely, he gets back and he starts it back up. So we will see Bruce Lee in Betty Ting Pee's apartment, where he is preparing for both of them to go see Raymond Chow. He has a headache, and it's really painful, and she offers him an Equagesic. And he takes the Equagesic, which was a prescribed pain medicine back in those days. And he'll take that Equagesic, he'll go to sleep, and then into a coma. Betty Ting Pee tries to wake him up. He won't wake up. She calls Raymond Chow. He comes. It's like, call an ambulance. We got to get him to the emergency room. He'll go to the hospital. He'll arrive more than likely dead. In the earlier biographies, they don't say that, but the later ones say he was kind of dead on arrival. They try to revive him. They wait for Linda Lee to get there, his wife. She's called. And on July 20th, 1973, Bruce Lee is declared dead. They will bring in, a top pathologist from Britain to do the autopsy. How could apparently the most fittest man in the world, or one of them anyways, die at the age of 32? He will determine at the time that it was an allergic reaction to the Equagesic that he had taken. It's a cautionary tale, and doctors tell you that. People tell you, don't take prescription medications that were prescribed to someone else for your ailment. I'm not a medical expert, and there's been many medical theories since then. There's been, Discovery Channel 1-hour programs on how did Bruce Lee die, and people have gone back and looked at the evidence and made their different conclusions. They may all be right. I think we often look for a singularity, and I don't always think there is a singularity. Sometimes there is, and sometimes there isn't. I think in Bruce Lee's death, there's probably just not one thing. I think it may be a combination of things. In the book, Who Killed Bruce Lee? It says on page 12, Lee was known to get really mad in his temper tantrums. He had threatened the director Lo Wei, who directed The Big Boss and Fist of Fury. And there were other incidents. And I'm going to go here, and I'll just read it briefly. Starting on page 12, quote, during the filming of Enter the Dragon, Lee fought with scriptwriter Michael Allen and with producer Fred Weintraub. There was also much ill feeling, going way beyond the bounds of friendly rivalry between Lee and his co-star, Bob Wall, a former U.S. professional karate champion. In the scene where Wall lunges at Lee with the bottles, he held onto them too long during one rehearsal and sliced Lee's hand, putting him out of action for many days. Friends of Wall told him in Hong Kong that it might not have been entirely by accident. All of these temper tantrums with press, friends, and colleagues can doubtless be attributed to the enormous tension weighing on Lee at the time. He desperately wanted to be a film star on equal footing with Colburn and McQueen, and his impatience with the frustrations and obstacles that blocked his path are legendary. Once, when introduced to a guest at a party who failed to recognize Lee, he thrust out his hand rudely, turned his head aside, and snapped, "Bruce Lee, movie star." It was behavior like this that earned Lee many enemies in Hong Kong. Besides warning his closer friends that the strain of success was beginning to take a heavy physical and emotional toll. Bruce Lee was having more problems than just physical. And this is why it's important really to encounter Bruce Lee. Now, for someone to think I'm just trying to bash on Bruce Lee, hopefully they've seen the spirit of it, that how much I actually love Bruce Lee. What he has done for me is immeasurable. And I never even got to meet the person. See, as a kid and a teen, Bruce Lee kept me out of drugs. Yes, even though I had read in Bruce Lee, King of Kung Fu, that he had taken some cannabis, it didn't really register with me. I mean, I knew once I figured out what it was, but I wasn't being judgmental. I had friends who were doing marijuana, for crying out loud. I wasn't doing it, but I didn't think it was the worst drug in the world. I still kind of look at it like, it should be legal. People should be able to do what they want with themselves as long as they don't hurt others or give it to others. And it's up to them. I'm kind of a libertarian in that area. I looked at his martial arts and see, I wanted to be like Bruce Lee. And to me, to do that, I couldn't do drugs. I had to learn to be crisp. And the martial arts, I had to be more like Bruce Lee, not lowly in Five Fingers of Death. See, on film, Bruce Lee explodes. I went to all the Chuck Norris movies too, and I loved them. But he didn't explode like Bruce Lee did. There's something about Bruce Lee that just, his charisma, his energy is just pressed through the film. It just comes alive. Even to this day, it just comes alive to me. It's a spectacular feeling. And he helped me want to be a great martial artist. I read his book, Dao Jeet Kune Do. I read Bruce Lee's fighting skills. I read what others said about Bruce Lee. I couldn't wait to get my hand on the next Fighting Stars magazine or Black Belt magazine and see what articles may be on Bruce Lee. But all those other articles, like in Black Belt and Karate Illustrated and Kung Fu Illustrated, led me to also see what other people were doing. I wanted to be like Bruce Lee. I wanted to be fast and quick and have sharp technique. I wanted to be powerful. I wanted to defeat the bad guys. And for that, I am immensely grateful to Bruce Lee. In the martial arts, he was way ahead of his time, and he was not a competitive fighter. His theories in the Dao Jeet Kune Do are exceptional for the time period. They still, to this day, stand the test of time. But as I started to mature more and rereading the Bruce Lee books I read as a teen and a kid, as an adult, I started to go through a different process. See, I'm really trying to, like I said in the first episode, trying to get to know Bruce Lee. I started to see the warts as well. The temper. See, I had a temper. I didn't want one. My mom had a really bad temper, and I didn't want that. His anxiety, his paranoia. Yes, the world is weighing on him, but I was in a field where the world can kind of weigh. I was a law enforcement specialist, security police in the United States Air Force. And when this is all kind of in fruition, I'm in an area where they have NPA communist rebels, and they're assassinating Americans. We were busy cops, and our life could be on the line every night there. So I had a lot of things weighing on me. He was driven. I was driven. I was also trying to be a great martial artist and compete and do a lot of great things. And I had him to thank for that. But I saw the cautionary tales of him as well. What does a bad temper do for you? Nothing. It slows things down. It makes enemies. What does anxiety and worry do for you? It makes you late to work. Makes people not trust you. What does paranoia do for you? Creates friction, distrust among your friends and loved ones. Sure, they'll forgive and come back, but it's always be in the back of their head. If it gets too bad, They get really cautious around you. They love you. They'll come to the dinner. They'll go to the birthday party. They'll hang out with you, but they're in the back of their head, got to watch what I say. I don't want to be walking on eggshells. I know that because I have a loved one where I got to walk on eggshells when I'm around her. And then we believe our own lies. See, Bruce Lee was self-medicating. Now, I don't know for sure if his cannabis and hash use contributed to his death, but it didn't help. If you go into a seizure and you took a lot of it that day, it might be a clue. It wasn't helping him emotionally, mentally, or physically. And then it's also a cautionary tale. Don't use prescription medication not written to you by your doctor. We just take things for granted. Maybe a good reason. Whatever killed Bruce Lee, there's a lot that Bruce Lee gave to us. I'll say this now. I think he was the greatest martial artist ever lived. I'm not saying he's the best fighter that ever lived or the best thinker. But for a non-competitive fighter, all recounts are in the street fights, he was really good. His theories about fighting, many fighters use to this very day. And they've been very effective with it. And his charisma. I'll be candid. Not just martial art actors, all actors. To me, I can watch those 4 movies over and over and over again, and his charisma just shoots through. Game of Death, I can't watch over and over again. I can go to the Bruce Lee scenes at the end, and I much prefer to see a warrior's journey that came out much later, about 20 years ago, that has more of what he actually shot. His charisma comes through, and his technique is so crisp on film. It's beautiful, and beauty's important. And he showed me that I too can be a technician. I can have great technique. I can be fast. I can build on my strengths and find ways to mitigate my weaknesses. But he also told me this. See, Bruce Lee was known for talking about knowledge. That knowledge wasn't enough. You have to be able to have knowledge that you can apply. You got to apply that knowledge. I'm going to go a step further, and this is what I kind of learned by my mid-20s. And a lot of it is due to Bruce Lee. See, I read all those quotes, and I heard people talking about them. But there's one thing he was really missing. Wisdom. And that's what happens when you let the world weigh on you. I've been there. We probably all have. See, wisdom is able to shift and discern between true and false, the right path and the wrong path, the proper application, not the improper application. Wisdom, he might have been lacking. Being too driven, being too controlled, having tantrums and hubris, and I've had all of them, probably still will, clouds our thinking. Then we rely on our knowledge, but we rely on it without wisdom. If we get to the right end of things, usually it was lucky. Because without wisdom, sometimes knowledge takes us to our own destruction. And I also learned that from Bruce Lee. And you know what? I'm thankful. If Bruce Lee was with us, I think that he would say, yeah, learn from me. Don't be me, learn from me. Learn from my good and learn from my bad. And I say that because I want the same thing from people who know me. The things I did well, yeah, give me some accolades. Who wouldn't want them? More important, learn from them. Use them. Apply them for yourself. And the things I've done wrong, stay away. Don't do those things. Learn from it. And that's the other thing I like to say about wisdom. You don't always have to go through the rabbit hole yourself. You can see others who went through it, and you know what to avoid. It's just like you see others as role models, and you know what to do to excel and succeed and to achieve. You can see others when they fail, and you know what to avoid, what to turn away from, what to repent of. This part's been hard for me to do because I love Bruce Lee. And you know what? I learned from him, even though he was already gone. I sincerely hope that God shows him mercy because I want mercy too for me, and I want it for him. I hope he's resting in peace wherever he is, and I know his memory will be eternal. For everything, Bruce Lee, good and bad, no blemishes and warts, for your martial art prowess and your charisma and your guidance both for the good and the bad, I am deeply indebted to Bruce Lee. Well, I hope this wasn't a bummer, but I think if we're going to be honest and we're going to encounter Bruce Lee, we have to really look at Bruce Lee. To me, he's the greatest martial artist that ever lived. Spectacular in so many ways. And for that, our world is a better place. Thank you so much for watching. Goodbye.